Hi, I'm Harry Stegall. I thought it was time to address this website talking about Carlton Sallie's credentials. First of all, there's not anything on here that is not public information. Now let me tell you how this unfolded. Several months ago, LaRue Wyndham, who's running for sheriff as well, asked me to evaluate the candidates that had announced and were about to file. So I did. LaRue's been a friend of mine since 1990. And after looking over what was out there about the candidates, I simply said that the other three candidates do not have the administrative skills that you have. They have not worked their way through a department. They've never attended the FBI National Academy. They don't have a 4-year degree in criminal justice. And I remember sometime in the 90s, LaRue telling me that he intended to run for sheriff one day when he got a little older and a little more experience. And so he has planned this entire move all the way through his career. And I told him that it didn't appear to me that any of the other candidates had planned to become sheriff. I mean, one of them has done 29 years as a patrol officer. Another candidate has spent most of his life as a school resource officer. I think he obtained the rank of sergeant. But nobody went through the rank and the process and the education and so forth and so on in today's world that it takes to be an effective leader. I did tell him at that point in time that from what I could see written by Mr. Sallie on his resume that was posted on his social media sites, both Facebook and his website, that he seemed to bounce around a lot. Now, some time went by and someone asked Mr. Sallie if he was still a UNC policeman or with the UNC Police Department. And he responded that no, he was not with the UNC Police anymore, but he was a sworn officer, and his department did not want him to say where he worked, didn't want officers to say where they worked. Well, I thought that was a little unusual. Unless a man's undercover or he's working vice or something, normally you don't worry about things like that. And of course, he wouldn't be in that situation. He wouldn't be out here running for sheriff. So I decided to do just the simple thing of pick up the phone, call Training and Standards in Raleigh, and just ask the question, where is Mr. Carlton Sallie certified to work now? And their answer was simple. She said, I can give you 2 places. And I said, go ahead. The first place is Sand Hills Community College. She said he started there just recently. Okay. And the second place that he had worked was Scotland County. And that was back in June or July of last year. So I thought, well, he's been gone from the UNC Police Department for a long time. If he worked for Scotland County back in the summer of 2017, or he only worked for the police department, UNC Police Department, from the fall of 2017 until currently. So let's just make sure these dates are correct. So I called Sand Hills Community College, and the lady verified the fact that he started mid-February 2018. I called Scotland County, and the HR person verified that Mr. Sallie started there in the late summertime. I don't have the dates right here in front of me. I'm not going to read anything, but you could look on the site and see. And he was there for 90 days. I asked what happened, and she just kind of chuckled and said he was given the opportunity to resign. Okay, read into that what you want. So I thought, okay, he's not with UNC Police. He's worked at Scotland County, but he didn't list that. Let's just verify everything else. So I picked the phone up and I called the UNC Police Department. And an officer answered the phone, and I said, I need to verify employment. She said, on who? And I said, Carlton Sallie. She said, don't recognize that name. And I said, well, it might have been a month, a year, 2 years ago. She said, I've been here for a long time and I don't recognize that name. Okay. She said, hold on. So she went off for a couple of seconds, came back, and she said, no, there's an officer here that's been here for a longer time than me, and he doesn't recognize that name. Could he be the UNC Hospital Police? And I said, I don't know. He said that he worked for the UNC Police. And that was on his resume, on his Facebook page, and on his comparison to other police officers that he had put up on his Facebook page and on his website. So, okay, I called over to the UNC Hospital Police and just asked to speak to Carlton Sallie, and the man said, "Oh, he doesn't work here anymore." I said, "Okay, thank you." So I verified and determined what I wanted to see was that he did not work for the UNC Police Department, as he stated in writing. He worked for the UNC Hospital Police, which is a totally different entity. And the hospital police basically work on hospital grounds and the hospital building and medical buildings surrounding them. So there's not really much first-line law enforcement involved in that. They're sworn officers for a reason, and I won't get into all that, but it's not like he's out in the field working in a car, making radio calls and those kinds of things. So I thought, okay, maybe I should check a little further. So I called Cumberland County, and Cumberland County, the lady in HR said, "Oh yes, we've hired Mr. Sallie 3 times." I said, "Wow." She said, "Which date are you interested in?" I said, "Well, give them all to me." So I posted them. They're on this site for you to look at. And I said, "What was his rank when he came and left?" And she said, "I see nothing but a deputy." Okay, great. I contacted a source inside the Cumberland County Sheriff's Department that had been there for a very, very long time, like 25 plus years. This person said he never worked the road, because I've been in the road for a long time. He probably worked in the jail. Okay, he worked in the jail. So then I called Wake County. Wake County gave me his dates again, which was 3 or 4 years. And it's on this same site. You can look at those dates. And I said, "Tell me about rank." No rank. It appears he came in as a deputy, went out as a deputy. Okay. I suppose deputy means a deputy, and if you're a sergeant, lieutenant, captain, then they would have said that, but they didn't. So if there's a discrepancy there, then Mr. Sallie should address that, but he hasn't. And so then I thought, well, okay, let's call the last one. Let's call Sampson County. So I contacted HR in Sampson County. The lady said he's been here for not quite 2 years. She gave me the dates, and I said, "Okay, that's 23 months. And she said, "That's exactly right." And I said, "What was his rank coming in?" She said he was a deputy, and he left as a bailiff, which means he worked the courtroom, and he was part-time. And I said, "Well, okay, there's nothing wrong with that. He just worked 23 months, and he was a part-time deputy and ended up part-time." So I got through with that, and I said, "All right, if you read what he put out there, he would like you to believe that he has enhanced his career with experience from multiple departments to put him in a position to be the sheriff." And that's not what happened. I added all the years up, and I could only come up with around 12. So where are the other 6? So along the way, Mr. Sallie has mentioned that he worked overseas for a while, and I suppose he's wanting to count that as part of his law enforcement experience, but working overseas as a trainer, that's not really law enforcement. He wasn't sworn over there, so that's up for the voters to decide. He also mentioned that he worked some personal security while he was overseas. That again, not law enforcement, not sworn, so that's up for the voters to decide that too. What I wanted to do was bring his credentials to light, since he, in my opinion, has exaggerated them, enhanced them. He left out the Scotland County thing. He misrepresented the UNC Police thing. And here's the deal. All he had to do was provide us with a list of the 18 years that he allegedly has as a police officer, and all this would have gone away. But he hasn't done it, and he won't do it, because if he does, there's one thing. If he doesn't, there's another thing. So it's kind of the less of two evils, so to speak. But I want to point out one thing to you as I close this. The chief of police in Fayetteville has a flaming resume. This woman has prepared herself her entire career to be a law enforcement administrator and a chief. She went all the way through her department. She moved all the way to the top. She left. She went to, I believe it was Sandy Springs, to start a police department, which is amazing. She then went over to Cobb County and worked on the administrative side and the operational side as assistant chief. This woman knows law enforcement. She was the candidate of choice in Fayetteville, and they hired her. Now let me ask you this question, voters. Why would you expect any less from your sheriff as you do from your chief of police. Why? They both do the same thing. They both answer radio calls. They both investigate murders. They investigate rapes. They investigate robberies. They investigate car thefts. They basically have dual law enforcement roles, one in the city, one in the county. So why would you want the sheriff to be less qualified than the chief of police? Why didn't they just hire somebody as chief of police for $30,000, $35,000 if it doesn't make any difference? It does make a difference. That's the point of this entire process. It's up to the voters to decide if the other two candidates that have spent their life basically as police officers with no administrative background, no continued education or no furthered education, degreed professional type education, it's up to the voters to decide if they want them to lead their sheriff's department or they want somebody on the same caliber as the chief of police in Fayetteville, like LaRue Wyndham, to lead their department. I mean, if you go back and look at LaRue's credentials, they're flaming. I mean, the man has done everything in the sheriff's department. He understands what it takes to be the sheriff. There's not going to be any surprises for him. Everyone else has a different opinion of what it takes. I had to laugh at a couple of candidates saying they were going to put a uniform on and get out there and answer radio calls with their men. They were going to work and they were going to be with them. Folks, that is not what the sheriff does. It's not what he does. He is in an administrative position. He's got 4 children, all of which he has to love equally. He's got the road deputies, he's got the courthouse, he's got the civil process, and he's got the jail. All of them are completely different animals. Do you know there's more liability that comes out of a county jail in all of North Carolina than there is any other location? There's more people sued in county jails than there are any other law enforcement position. Now, why would you want to put a man that doesn't have any jail administrative experience? Jailer's fine, but that's not the guy that has to deal with health and human resources. That's not the guy that has to deal with the nutritional level. You know, these inmates have to have a certain amount of nutrition every day. They have to have exercise. They have to have personal hygiene. I mean, there's more to just lock them up, feed them bread and water. You can't do that. Plus, Mr. Wyndham has surrounded himself with professionals his entire career, and he's the type of person that will be able to go out and entice a professional jailer or a professional administrator to come in and sit in positions that will help him. He has been through those processes. People respect him because he is a career police officer that has administrative ability. And that's what's super important. Now, as I said a moment ago, all Mr. Sallie has to do is send us the verification of the 18 years that he allegedly worked in law enforcement, and we'll readjust all of this video. That's all this is about. This is not dirty politics. This is seeing that the citizens of Cumberland County know who they are voting for. Just that simple. We didn't write that resume. That resume's been out there. He wrote that resume, not us. It's up to us, up to me, to verify it. And to set the record straight, Mr. Wyndham had nothing to do with this. He doesn't even know that I'm making this video now. This is all me. Have a great day. Vote carefully. Thank you very much.